Welcome to Top Line, the podcast for the best founders, operators, and investors in B2B tech. Every week, AJ Bruno, Asad Zaman, and me, Sam Jacobs, will break down what's important for you to know to be the most well-informed professionals in the market. Hey everybody, welcome to Top Line Spotlight. Top Line Spotlight is that short informational segment where we talk to CEOs, founders, go-to-market executives, investors, and we ask them about a business problem or challenge that they've solved over the last 12 to 18 months. As always, I'm joined by my friend and co-host Asad Zaman, the CEO of Sales Talent Agency. And today we've got on the show, and we're putting the spotlight on Pete Thompson. Pete is the Chief Executive Officer and co-founder of LucidLink. And that's a business that's raised over $90 million in funding and is scaling very rapidly, serving creative professionals and IT teams, as well as CTOs and CIOs. Before LucidLink, Pete spent 12 years at DataCore Software, and before that, 10 years in the world of Japanese high business. He's originally from Minnesota, but he spent a couple years in Tokyo, a couple years in New York, and now he's in cloudy San Francisco. Pete, welcome to our show.
Thank you very much, Sam. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me on.
We're happy to have you. So I gave a little bit of a description about LucidLink, but we'd love to, we want to help you spread the word. Tell us a little bit about the company. What do you do? What problems do you solve? And what led you to founding it?
Yeah, thank you for that. So LucidLink transforms cloud storage into an unlimited high-performance drive that serves as a single source of truth for teams and companies to collaborate on. It's accessible from anywhere that you have an internet connection. And the big difference between us and some of the other ones out there is that we're providing direct access to the files where they are stored in the cloud, rather than, and then stream them on demand, allowing everyone to collaborate on them. And rather than having to download, replicate, sync, or God forbid, and one of the things we replace most often is the need to copy your files to a drive and ship them overnight. So it works with any file. It runs on all major OSs. It can be deployed in any device, whether that's a laptop, server, virtual machine, in a container, and now in mobile as well. And the big thing is that users don't have to change their workflows. If they know how to, and if the applications know how to treat a drive that you just came and plugged into your machine, they can use LucidLink. And we mitigate the effects of the performance because of latency coming out of the cloud, and we allow them to collaborate on it.
Pete,
the result, yeah, go ahead.
That's super interesting. Who is your ideal customer for this? Because I can imagine some use cases where this is a life changer, and in some use cases this would be overkill, right? Like if I'm trying to share a simple Word document, I don't need that. The latency wouldn't be a factor, but if I'm sharing a big media file, it would be. Tell us a little bit about who this is most applicable to.
You're absolutely right about that. So the idea was sparked in the previous my previous company at when we had because it was based in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and a super highly technical product. The engineering team that they had to assemble at the time, which was not common, was highly distributed. We had pockets of engineers all over the world. And one of the big problems that they had was, how do we keep the team productive when you've got large sets of high velocity files undergoing rapid changes? And then the problem gets even harder when those files get big. So this was back in we started the DataCore in 2000, and it was a few years into that. And when my co-founder said, there's got to be some better way out there to do this, and he was running the engineering team at DataCore, and took a deeper dive into the technologies out there, and finally came away and said, it's just an unsolved problem, but it shouldn't be this hard. Bandwidth is becoming ubiquitous. Latencies are actually reasonable. Cloud infrastructures are maturing. Why is it so difficult and such a terrible user experience when you just try to access a file over distance? So that was what sparked the idea. I, between companies, found my way to Stanford to the Sloan Fellowship Program, just wanting to get a fresh start something from scratch. So I was essentially studying entrepreneurship and looking for an idea to start a company. And that's when he reached out to me, told me this, showed me a working prototype that just blew my mind. And I said, this shouldn't be possible, what you're showing me here. And we decided to use the rest of the time I had at that program to try to disprove the theory that there was a company here. So what we started out doing, we said, okay, let's pattern match, right? Let's find distributed teams or distributed processes who need to collaborate on very large sets of data undergoing rapid rates of change or big files. And in the beginning, we found that everywhere. I mean, once you started looking for that, you found it in CAD/CAM engineering design and oil and gas exploration and medical imaging.
A big file, like I think it'd be interesting to like put a size to it. When you went through this process of trying to figure out who has a big enough problem for us to click into and be able to solve and charge money for and build a business around, did you learn that the file has to be bigger than X and accessed more than Y times a day or a month or a week for them to want to buy this?
That last bit is really important for them to want to buy this, right?
Yeah.
Where is it in the priority stack? Because we had tons of conversations where they'd say, finally we'd say, well, how important is this? Well, it's a 70 out of 100 to solve. That's a terrible way to try to sell. So to answer your question, we were looking for two things. One is if you have a large set of data that you need to get access to, but you don't know what you need and when you need it, that's one great use case. It's like, okay, I've got a petabyte here. I'm going to be running this. And actually, there's certain things like machine learning workloads and things like that need to do that. They need to be able to have immediate access to the entire set, but they don't access all of it at any given time. So you just need to be able to provide that. And then the second one is the file size. And that's the more acute one because everyone is used to saying, okay, I need to share this file. It's too big to append to an email. It's going to take me 20 minutes to upload, them an hour to download, and no one else can work on it because we have to get the changed file until it gets back to us. So that really depends on the workflow. It depends on how many people are involved. It depends on your internet connection and what you're trying to replace. So there wasn't an easy question around that. And to be honest, what really crystallized our product market fit was the pandemic, because suddenly you had, and that's why we chose the creative content, initially video creation, video editing, and creative content. Because when the pandemic struck, by the way, we were raising money when it did, and that was a terrible experience.
How long had you been on the journey at that point? Because basically, the way it seems is that the problem you were trying to solve was finding product market fit. Who has a problem that we're trying to solve, that is important enough to them, urgent enough to them, and that person has the power to make a decision to purchase something, has the budget to be able to spend on this. Finding product market fit is really hard, and especially on the urgency front, this is an urgent, important problem that this person can spend money on. You were looking for that for a while, and then the pandemic was the unlock. How long was your journey of trying to find it?
So we started, we formed the company in 2016. That was the spring when I still was at Stanford, and began raising money very difficultly. It was we had a long journey to that. We finally got our seed round funding staked by Steve Anderson at Baseline in November of that year. So we formed in January, and it took us finally until November to get that going. We hired the first core engineers, and it took us 2 years to build the product. Wow. This was a very highly technical, difficult, lots of challenges to solve product. So it took us 2 years to build that, where we came out with our beta and began trying to find the product market fit. So around 2020, I'd say we had maybe 50 customers and around 100K in ARR.
Were those
We
Not
had
were those the dark days, Pete? I think
not yet, not yet. We still, we were
we have dark
when
days
we
to
should.
come.
Yeah. There's dark. Oh man, many darker days to come. Yeah, no, this was great because their minds were blown by this. I mean, they
Yeah.
really were. They were like, "Wait a minute, this is impossible. How is this working? This is like black magic." But it just wasn't, and we had customers, representative customers across all of those verticals. But really, probably the most difficult thing was saying, you know what, this is it. We have to choose one vertical. We don't have enough proof points, so we have to do that somewhat with just courage and intuition, and select one and go with it.
When did Adobe enter the mix? Was that post-COVID after you started scaling rapidly and you're doubling down on the creative types?
Yes. So we're at this point, and we had to raise our A. We needed about $1 million in ARR to raise a decent A. We had
You
100K.
got your seed round for 4 years. You guys survived on that seed round. How much?
We did
was-
2 seed rounds. We did two seed
Two
rounds.
seed rounds. Okay.
Yeah. At about $6 million, I think, is what we raised between the two. But we were short on runway, and we were raising our A. We were driving up Sand Hill Road, and our entire week of meetings got wiped out. It was the same thing. Well, we're no longer allowed to take face-to-face meetings. We're going to put a pause on all new investments. It'll probably last 2 weeks, a month at the most, and then we'll start talking again. That kind of thing. But the reason we were raising our A at that time was not because of metrics. It was because shortage of runway, which
Survival.
sucked.
Yeah.
So we had to really, dig in and survive. We had about 20, I think we had 25 people at the time. So it was no joke.
How
A lot of
much
lives were.
runway did you have left at that point? Like when you got those emails that, sorry, can't meet now, maybe a month or so.
Yeah.
At that point, you're looking at the news and saying, maybe it's a month, maybe it's 2 months, maybe it's more. And then you're looking at the bank. How many days, how many weeks, months were left?
We had, I think we had around 4 months at the time, but we ran we ran out of money twice.
Wow.
We ran out of money twice.
What did you
Essentially, when I say that, I mean, we paid the last payroll we were able to pay twice. And then we were able to just, kind of sell our way out of it, collect our way out of it.
Wow.
So you had accounts receivable, maybe payrolls like 100 grand or 200 grand every 2 weeks, and you're like, all right, time to call XYZ customer. They gotta pay the bill.
Oh, we did it all. We didn't lose any people. We didn't lose any people, but we did deep cuts across the board. We got a PPP loan. We renegotiated any kind of contracts with better terms. We targeted those kind of AR that we could pull in. We did cash flow on a weekly basis.
Wow. So was DataCore an exit? Because I'm not asking about your personal finance situation, but I am asking about your state of mind. Because if you're a first-time entrepreneur, maybe you haven't had a successful outcome before. There's this existential crisis that seeps in when you're that low on cash. It's not just, will the business close? It's, who am I? Am I not the person that I thought I was? Am I going to let everybody down? I've done some friends and family checks. How did you manage? Because that sounds exhausting.
Were you inside my head? I mean, those were the dark nights, man, and those are the demons that come out for sure. I got my aura ring around that time because it was not
Don't look at it.
That's a tough time to get it.
Yeah. No. So yes, I didn't have a successful exit. We weren't well heeled enough to bootstrap. But we did end up, because one of the important lessons we learned is the importance of not piercing the corporate veil. And that has to do with not being able to make payroll. So you have to make sure that you can make payroll. And so that was scraping together stuff with my co-founder and make sure that we wrote our own checks to be able to make it.
Commingling personal and professional funds and thus creating perhaps personal liability back to like any obligations you had through the company?
Well, I guess it comes down to if you're going to do a wind down and if you're going to let people go, you better do it before you make that last payroll payment.
Wow.
It has to do with timing around that.
So
Otherwise, yes, personal liabilities can come into play. So
the-
important lesson on that.
So you were in this really tricky situation, which is a shared experience with so many founders, right? Like so many people go through this experience. As Sam said, it's a really difficult experience, makes you question everything.
Yeah.
But at the same time, in the background, the thing that has extended your ability to raise your A is also leading to some changes in the world that became a accelerant for you being able to find product market fit. So let's click into that. You're
That's
still
right.
trying
Yeah.
to find product market fit. You're
So
trying to
you
survive.
asked, and you asked about Adobe because that was an important thing for them. So during this period, we got our first call from this. In this case, it was A&E Networks, and essentially the story went. They said, "Hey, we haven't heard about you before. We use Adobe Stack. There's some guy over at Adobe said I ought to give you a call. I just sent home 80 editors from our Brooklyn office. We gave them a laptop, a hard drive, and a VPN connection, and it's going to get us through about 2 weeks of production. Then we don't know what we're going to do. Can you really help us?" We're like, "Yeah, that's exactly what we do. Let's put you on a POC." And the POC ended up running straight into production. And we did an 80K ARR deal with them in 6 weeks. And, so for me, my background storage, 18-month sales cycles and stuff like holy crap. And during this period, there was an overlap with Vice News, same problem, same story, same
And did they
outcome,
come
and
to
then
you as well?
Viacom CBS. Pardon
And
me?
they came to you as well? Like, were
Yeah.
these now finding you?
So these guys who are using Adobe were going to Adobe saying, "Guys, what do we do? We use your tools. How do we do this now?" And and this guy over at Adobe, the first one anyway, figured it out. He was scouring the marketplace.
So you
He
didn't
found
know him,
us.
he didn't know you. Like this wasn't like an old established relationship where
No.
he knew the space and he knew this is interesting, this might so.
He was
Wow.
trying everything out, and he said, "Wait a minute." In fact, he told me, he said the first time he tried it, he had to get a bunch of his other Adobe guys on, going, "Am I seeing this right? Is this really happening? Because it looks like we can just use this like a drive." And they're like, "Wow, this is
That's
amazing."
so cool. Like double clicking on a massive file that's like, some scene from a movie or something like that, and just being able to open it right away.
Yes, yeah. At the same time, you collaborating on the same timeline
Wow.
for it. Yeah.
So what's happened since COVID? Tell us about a little bit about the journey and what are you excited about going forward?
Well, so this did turn into really rapid growth for us. So we did go from that 100K to a million by the end of that year, and then 1 to 5, 5 to 20. Now we're coming up on 40.
Wow.
So it's been quite a rocket ride. We've put
Congratulations.
in a lot of this year we've tripled our go-to-market team. We've doubled our engineering, and in 2023 we were kind of in this position where we were facing, okay, do we continue to do what we're doing? We have enough money in the bank. We put together an operating plan that would allow us to grow organically, get up to the point of achieving a break even. And it wasn't a good time to raise money around that time. Everything was valuations were cratering, and there was an economic downturn, and so there was a lot of people who said you probably shouldn't raise now. Just keep doing this until things improve. But there was also a part of me that said, yeah, but money has to go somewhere. And if we're an outlier because we have the metrics, even in this downturn, maybe we can get a good deal. And so I decided to kind of float it out there a little bit, and just the inbound interest was crazy. I was in pitch meetings just all day long, every day. And we ended up getting a couple of term sheets, and this was a big round for us. This was $70 million round.
Wow.
uh,
Congrats.
and thank you,
What does this feel
at good
like?
terms.
Like having gone through such a tough journey to get to this point, and then having raised a $70 million round at what I'm imagining is a healthy valuation, because you wouldn't have raised at a bad valuation. You didn't have to, right?
Right.
And so you got a healthy valuation at the toughest time to get a healthy valuation and raise good money. After
Yes.
all the trickiness you guys had to navigate, as we come to the close, how does that feel? What does that feel like when you're having a drink on a Friday evening? How do you reminisce on this?
Well, I don't. I mean, for me, I'm kind of like, okay, something's wrong here. I'm waiting for the shoe to drop. It's like, okay, this can't.
So you still have a little of that thing, like
Oh, paranoia. Yeah, paranoia. Yes, yeah, that's survival. Waiting for something to happen.
A sense of
But no, I
dread.
mean, it was amazing, but it really was, what this did is made me realize how important and strong our team was, and how crucial the culture that we had built was in allowing the resiliency during this period. Because when we started the company, one of the things I took from Stanford was that having a great, strong, positive company culture is not just a nice to have. It's not just a good place to work. It's not just happy people. It creates better outcomes. It provides better resiliency and stronger teams. And this was absolute proof to me that that was the right decision. If we hadn't taken the approach we had in the way that we intentionally built our core values, the behaviors that define them, and then making sure that anytime you face a tough decision, you're using those values as the lens for making that decision. That's what came home to me, and I said that's what saved us. It really
I love
was.
that. What's before we go? We first of all be thinking about a book you want to recommend, or a podcast, or some idea, some meme you want to spread in the world. But before that, what's one of your values that you're proudest of?
Well, it comes around to just the way you treat people. And it's hard because it's the balance of performance and accountability with compassion and understanding. And so finding that line, it's always going to change. It's going to evolve. It's depending on what you're going through and where you are at stage of your company, but that's what you have to do. And I think that's what, yeah, that's what I would leave you with there.
I love it. All right, so Pete, it's been great having you on the show. Book recommendation, podcast recommendation, idea recommendation. If you want to, keep paying it forward a little bit and spread some good ideas around, what's something that's impacted you recently?
When you ask me about a book recommendation, I've been going deep into Dune, the series, and
Fair enough.
part of that is because of, with the the industry that we are now in, I've become much more aware around media and things like that. So the new remakes of Dune have been fantastic, and I've been reading it with my son, who really got captured
I think I
by the
got
series.
3 books in, and then it just got a little
It gets
weird.
dense.
But the first book is truly one of the great science fiction books of all time.
Totally, totally. And that's what I was so surprised to. My son read all 5 books, and I was like, how did you do that? And so I went back to reread them, and I had the same experience you did. It's like, first book was awesome. Next
Amazing.
one, they were a little bit of work.
Yeah, exactly. All right, awesome. Pete, if folks want to get in touch with you, what's the best way? And if they want to purchase LucidLink, what's the best way?
So lucidlink.com is the place to go. We've got a 1 month free trial, and it's super easy to set up. It's sold as SaaS. You can start small and you can start just going with it. Once you realize that this is going to transform your workflow, if it does, the type of workflow you have, reach out to our team. We've got great people who can walk you through stuff.
Awesome.
I'm on LinkedIn. That's probably the easiest way to reach me.
And some people will. Thanks so much for joining us on Top Line Spotlight, and congrats on the success. We're happy that you made it, and we're excited for your continued flourishing. So
That was cool.
Thank you very much. It was a
Thank you,
pleasure.
Pete.
thanks a lot.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Top Line. New episodes come out every Sunday. If you like what you heard today, subscribe so you never miss an episode, leave a 5-star review, and share it with your friends. Don't forget to join our Top Line Slack channel to connect with us and discuss the topics we cover with other listeners. Click the link in the show notes. Lastly, if you're interested in joining Pavilion, you can learn more about membership at joinpavilion.com/membership. Thanks again for listening.